What's happening, guys? Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch the new spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so this video is one I've been wanting to do for a while now. And that's ever since we did our 30 plus Hulks rundown where we named like 40 different Hulks, somewhere around there. And Xemnu we did mention in that video towards the end, but we didn't elaborate too much on his character. And I know some of you guys wanted me to go back and cover more about him, so here we are. Alright, so first and foremost, the pronunciation of his name. And so I've heard his name pronounced either way, Xemnu or Shemnu, which are 2 out of 3 ways that the letter X is pronounced in any name. And personally, I go with the Z sounding Xemnu because the S sounding Shemnu is more often used in your Latin or French dialect. And that's kind of like the name Xuxa, Xuxa. I don't know if you guys remember that show. You know, with the blonde Brazilian lady, early morning kids show. Kind of showing my age now, but anyway. But speaking of age, Xemnu is actually 2 years older than your original Bruce Banner Hulk, which officially makes him the first true Hulk in Marvel Comics. And he first premiered in November of 1960 in Journey into Mystery issue number 62, also created by the brilliant minds of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who later brought us the Hulk we know today in May of 1962. And over the years, the character has been through a number of changes. Most notably is the color of his fur, which is originally like a brownish ginger kind of copper color. Then not too long after, it was changed to white. And this wasn't because of any printing issues like the Hulk where they changed him from gray to green. This is one of those things that was just changed with no definitive explanation. We just kind of had to look at it and be like, oh, okay, and kind of go with it. Very reminiscent to the Aunt Viv situation. But the color change is one of the few things that I don't have a problem with. Because of the white fur, especially when you get closer to your more recent illustrations like in Annihilation Conquest, it actually looks more haunting, at least in my opinion. And that haunting vibe is really what this character is supposed to be about. And since his original depiction in Journey into Mystery, which we'll dive into a bit more in just a minute when we talk about his origin, but since then he's veered away from a lot of the things that have really made him a very interesting character. Because originally when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby came up with Xemnu, the idea of the character was very similar to the Bruce Banner Hulk, which we're more familiar with. And that idea was stemming from your horror genre, which is why he very appropriately premiered in Journey into Mystery, which dealt with a lot of more cryptic characters, more monster-based characters. But later in issue number 83, with the first appearance of Thor, it started to focus more on Thor and more Asgard type stories. And so now getting into the origin of Xemnu, the way this is set up, I really like. And if you haven't noticed by now, I'm definitely going to tell you what I like and don't like about this character too. But the origin I like, and here's why. Because when we first see Xemnu in Journey to Mystery issue number 62, we just find him crash landed face down in the Black Tree Swamp, but we really don't know what the deal is with this guy. And it's there that he's discovered by this electrician by the name of Joe Harper. And Joe Harper is not really like your super intelligent Reed Richards by any means, but he is well educated. He's an electrician. He's the first person to find Xemnu, and he's the first person to call him the Hulk, mainly off his size, being 11 feet tall and weighing a little over 1,000 pounds. But what I like about going back and reading this origin is the eerie tone of it. It kind of has a touch of your Stranger Things kind of weirdness, because when Joe Harper stumbles across this hulking monster, he takes a closer look and he notices that his composition is also based on some sort of mechanics. So his first thought is, hey, I gotta do what I can to save this thing, I'll take it back to my workshop. But that's the eerie thing, because at this point he doesn't know anything about this creature. He doesn't know if he's like a murder machine, like if he was built and sent here to wipe out the whole planet, he doesn't know. But being naive, he assumes the best, hoping that he's a lost traveler that he can revive and communicate with, hoping that this Hulk could be man's first communication with what's beyond the stars. And so when he gets him to the workshop where he's tending to his care, he begins to charge him up, and that's when Xemnu starts to respond. And Joe's like, Hulk, can you hear me? And he responds like, yeah, I hear you, cut up the juice, and my name's Xemnu, man. He's very straight to the point, but it's here where we get a vague origin of where he's from. And initially when he's telling Joe his story, he doesn't give him a lot of detail because he knows if he just told Joe who he was off the rip, he would have just pulled the plug. But he kept it very general. He was like, I was on this planet with numerous life forms, a supply ship came, and when the ship came, I snuck past the guards. Not sure exactly how he did that, being 11 foot tall and weighing over a ton. Maybe their gravity was different and his tiptoe game was on point. I mean, who knows? He probably left out the part where he was a tiptoe champion on that planet. But for the sake of the story, we're just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt right there. But what he does from here, he sneaks on that supply ship, and when it takes off, he notices that it's not powerful enough to take him where he wants to go. And that's where he ended up falling short and landing here on Earth. But after he tells Joe this story, Joe's like, okay, hold up. You said you was stranded on this planet, but then they had guards. And I could just imagine right there, like Xemnu checks his battery level first, and when he sees that it's full, he's like, okay, well, I'll tell you what kind of planet it was. It's a planet where they keep criminals like me from menacing the universe and doing really, really bad things. And that's when it dawns on Joe, like at this moment, he knew that he had earned a new idiot badge, like achievement unlocked. But at this point, it was too late. The electrolysis process was complete, Xemnu was charged back up, which also means that he's now capable of his full powers and abilities. And his list of powers really gauge on the amount of energy he has absorbed. And the amount of time that he can use them is really gauged on the writer, but the abilities that he has is 1, super strength, 2, heightened intelligence, which really doesn't matter how much power he has for that one, 3 and 4, depending on how you look at it. He's been shown to have both telekinetic and telepathic abilities, and I'll come back to those in a little bit. But last and most notably, hypnosis. And the range of his hypnosis is ridiculous. At one point, it reached across the whole planet, but that's only on a full charge. And we'll notice in future issues that a problem that he runs into is getting access to those larger amounts of energy. But here, when he's charged up for the first time on Earth, he makes his attempt to take control of Joe's mind, just to test it out and see if his power works on humans. And when he figured out that it would work, he figured, okay, I'll just hypnotize the whole planet, project into their minds the plan for building me a bigger, stronger ship that could take me all the way home, and boom, I'm out of here. Oh yeah, and that boom part is the part where the Earth tears in half in the process of taking him home. But that's not his problem. He's just trying to get back to his home planet because deep down inside, he doesn't want to be alone. And really, that's the one definitive thing that separates Xemnu Hulk from the Bruce Banner Hulk. Because originally, Bruce Banner Hulk, the reason why he was so angry, it was simply because he just wanted to be left alone. He just wanted everybody to fall back. He wanted General Ross to chill out with all them tanks and missiles, but people kept messing with him. And Banner's had multiple motivations over the years, but that's the primary reason that his Hulk would get angry and then that anger would escalate. But like I mentioned with Xemnu, his hypnosis rays, they did reach around the world. He had a ship built where he made his attempt to go home, but his ship was sabotaged by Joe Harper, who was the only person who was released from Xemnu's hypnosis. And Harper's plan with doing that was, yes, the ship would work, get out of the atmosphere, and once it get out there, it would malfunction and he would be just drifting in space, hopefully getting stuck in the orbit of the sun. And this is where that example of the telekinetic ability comes in, because when he was stuck, he used that ability to hit his ship and knock him back to Earth. And when he came back, Harper was the only person who remembered him. And in the event where he tried to control Harper's mind again, he reflected the rays back at Xemnu, placing him in an incorporeal form, which just means he was pure energy. Don't give me that look. That's just the way the comic reads. But this allowed him to see that his home world was destroyed, and ever since then, the main goal of his character when working independently has been to restore the race of his home planet. But the execution of that just got weird a lot of the time, because at one point he had this TV show which he was going to use as a platform to transform all the world's children into creatures of his home race, which once again is just weird. But the Defenders did stop him and that didn't work out, but from that point on he was really just used as a plot device. Like when the time came we just needed a bunch of monsters for the Hulk to smash, it was all a byproduct of Xemnu. Like in Hulk Annual number 5, he stole files from the government and made robot replicas of creatures who were on file, one of which being Groot. But this event really just served two purposes. One, just like I mentioned, Hulk just going crazy and smashing everything in sight. 2 was a rematch between both of the Hulks, because in that earlier issue of Defenders, Xemnu nearly won. But here, when Hulk gets past fighting all the robot clones and he finally faces Xemnu, their fight gets broken up and we never get like a definitive winner. But I do want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that was used with the character that I did like. And here I also want to elaborate more on his telepathic ability, which isn't really used much, but we do see him use it in a Deadpool team-up series. But I do have a guess to why he may or may not use it that much, and this is just speculation. And my guess is because of his power, the way that it's set up, and his powers are only as strong as the energy he absorbs, it seems like he also has an efficiency issue. So depending on which power he chooses to use, whether it's telekinesis, whether it's hypnosis, whether it's telepathy, it almost seems like his telekinesis or his telepathy drain more energy than his hypnosis does, for instance. And I do hold those three in separate categories, because a lot of the time people want to mix hypnosis with telepathy, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. Because a hypnotist doesn't necessarily have to be able to read minds in order to put somebody under a trance. Because the main concept of hypnosis is projecting an influence to someone who's either willing to submit or projecting it to their subconscious. And this can be achieved with no telepathic ability whatsoever. But we see Xemnu use his telepathic ability on Deadpool, whose mind is already a mess to say the least, but he uses it here on Deadpool to project one of the most embarrassing moments of his life. And when he shows it to Deadpool, Deadpool's like, wait, nobody knows about this, put that away. It's like he's embarrassed all over again, and for good reason, because it looked like he wearing his mama drawers right there. But in another instance, Impossible Man brings in Xemnu to face off against Green and Red Hulk. But at this time, he already combined Green and Red Hulk into Compound Hulk. I almost said Composite Hulk. But he combined the two into Compound Hulk, where then Compound Hulk faced off with Xemnu's creation, Klaw. And this is not the Klaw from Axis who we talked about before. That one was way better. I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't seen that video yet. But this Klaw was creation of Xemnu more with the intent and purpose of being a more superior Hulk, being more intelligent. But he wasn't around for very long because Compound Hulk ended up destroying this guy. But it was nice while it lasted. Xemnu also got his too, and I'll say, you know, in this case, because it's Compound Hulk, and the two had used Fin Fang Foom in the fight, burning off Xemnu's fur and then taking him down after that. But to be honest, I really wanted to see a better handle on this character. Like, part of me says give the fight to Compound Hulk, but the other part of me is like, yo, this classic character Xemnu, like, put some respect on his name, man. And that's just how I feel personally. Let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that I want this guy to be this all-powerful character that can take down anybody, but at the same time, I believe he can be a more formidable opponent in a number of ways. In that main introduction of this character that would kind of spook you a little bit, and who would also have this secret agenda who you'd have to figure it out after a while. I just feel like over the years, over the decades, the way he's been used, that he's just lost that. And it's not irredeemable. I do believe that the right writer, like your Greg Pak, who's a phenomenal Hulk writer, I believe he could redeem this character. Whoever would do it may have to change his power set to an explanation that's more modern, but there's a huge gap in his history that would allow the writer to do that. But continuing on, because I kind of feel like I'm ranting at this point, but going back to the point in time when Xemnu found out that his home planet was destroyed, he later had changed his plans into converting unborn children into the likes of the species of his home planet. And this is something we see in She-Hulk #7, and in this issue, She-Hulk is accompanied by Razorback, and dude's really just a waste. He's a bad idea incarnate. He's one of those characters you just think like, why would you do that? But anyway, with Xemnu executing this plan, he also has planned for She-Hulk to be his bride when all this is said and done. But of course, She-Hulk, being the strong woman that she is, she's like, I'm not having that. And probably because she's just not into dudes with real hairy backs or something. But she ended up breaking free and facing off with Xemnu, fighting him but not fully taking him down. Because by the time that she broke free, part of the process already begun on her and she started to transform. And this story was once again an example of a potentially great character being used at the expense of the protagonist. Like, what type of jerk tries to mind control women anyway? But ever since his character's return to Earth, he's kind of dropped to the bottom of the totem pole as far as monsters in your Marvel landscape. And this fall for his character has been a slow drop that has taken place over the course of 40, 50 years. And one of the painful things I think for his character has been that it's happened so early for his character that he really didn't get the chance to gain the traction and really get used in the right way before all this happened. Personally, I think the restoration of his people should have been set up different. So instead of him going for the children or going for She-Hulk, it should have been more like a journey for power, sort of like your Dr. Doom trying to bring his mother back, or have him searching the galaxy for some sort of artifact that would help him restore his people. But instead of taking that route, it's like he's been reduced to this throwaway character that has so much more potential than that. And with this level of intellect, there's no reason why he should always be subject to such a basic plot or even a basic role in some of your biggest events. But that's it for this one, you guys. I had to go in a little bit because this is a character that I initially really liked, but he was just dealt such a bad hand over the years. But let me know down in the comments, just curious, like this just popped into my head right now. Like, let me know what characters that you really liked or really gravitated towards that just got used in the worst way and it's like kind of thrown away. Like, I'm really curious to see what some of your responses are going to be. And it doesn't have to be just Marvel. It can be DC, Dark Horse, Image, whatever. But let me know down in the comments. I got links up for other videos for you to check out. Smash that like button if you learned something new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, later.